Spread lines. Let's get you caught up on those interesting games throughout this weekend and also throughout tonight. And that deals with the NFL. We got an imposing schedule on Sunday. One game at 3 o'clock. That is the AFC Championship game. One game at 6:30 p.m. That's the NFC Championship game. So let's start with the AFC Championship game. The New England Patriots taking on the Denver Broncos. This line, Joe, been bouncing around all week long. 4.5 to 5.5, depending on where you're shopping at. And a total that's continued to rise here. The 40.5 now up to 42.5. Joe, if we take a look at the weather forecast, we talked yesterday. It's supposed to be nice in Denver. The temperatures are starting to drop here, listed on the initial weather impact. 22 degrees at kickoff, now anticipated for Sunday's action. No precipitation in the forecast, and winds gradually gaining up to about 9 to 10 miles per hour. That's where we sit on a Wednesday. So your spread line for this game, Joe, once again, Patriots and Broncos is what?
Yeah, well, keep an eye. It's a great point, Donnie. This time of year, keep an eye on the weather because it can change drastically over every 24-hour period before we get to kickoff. But again, you're right. The interesting part about this game is from when it opened to where we are currently this morning, Donnie, there has been a lot of bouncing back and forth. Every time we seem to get up to 5.5, half the books, Donnie, are going back down. It's being bought that to 4.5. And then we see more of that Patriot money come in. It gets bounced up to 5. Then we go back. And it seems to have this cycle right now. But over the next 24 hours, limits will increase. And I think that's where you're going to have a pretty good indicator on whether or not this is likely going to stay put at where we are. It'll probably land somewhere in the middle, maybe 5.5. But the prevailing thought in the risk rooms that I hear, Donnie, is that we don't think this is getting anywhere near a key number. We're not getting anywhere near 7, and we're likely not getting anywhere near 3. So what you see here is what you're going to get. Just pick the winner.
No man's land, as Joe like to call it here, maybe so. And also, we're going to start to get those practice reports filing out here on a Wednesday. Keep in mind who's healthy, who's not, because we told you the Denver Broncos got a couple banged up wide receivers. And also, all we're asking for is, how good Stidham looked in practice to start to spur that comeback, per se, for the Denver Broncos on that spread line. And also understand this, only about 25% of the tickets early week here are coming in on the Denver Broncos, something to keep an eye on. Game number 2 on Sunday, the NFC Championship game. The Los Angeles Rams taking on the Seattle Seahawks. That's Stafford and Darnold. They're going to do it again the 3rd time this season. But how about this, Joe? We opened up at 2.5, with 1.5, 2.5, depending where you're shopping. We're not getting to the 3s out here. We saw some blinking 3s early in the week. They're not out there now. FanDuel, DraftKings, BetMGM, 365, and even out in Vegas at the Westgate, all minus 2.5 with a total of 47.5. I don't know if we get the 3s, and I don't know if we drop the 2s, Joe. What's that Wednesday spread line for you here?
Likely, Donnie, from what I am hearing inside these risk rooms, is that we are likely getting to 2, maybe even 1.5 before we get anywhere near 3 or 3.5 here. And the big question right now, at least with the professional money, is what is Sam Darnold's situation here? Because he wasn't tested at all in that game against the 49ers. He didn't have to do anything. We also know that Charbonnet's done now for the year, right? He was put on the shelf, which means they're short in the running back spot. That 2-headed monster is now just a 1-headed monster, and the Rams defense is not what the 49ers defense is. So there are going to be some questions, I think, during the week, and it's going to reflect in where this line moves about how truly healthy is Sam Darnold. And don't forget, the Rams have picked him off in 2 games. 6 times already this season, Donnie. So this is going to be interesting to keep an eye on. Also, very important to keep an eye on the weather in Seattle. We know this, 47.5. There has been an uptick in over money, but that can change as the weather changes.
NFL news and notes. This is called roughly 10 spots open in NFL for head coaches to be hired. We're starting that carousel here. And day by day, spot by spot, horse by horse on that carousel, they're getting filled up. And the biggest one of all, maybe the New York Giants actually having their coach of their future. It's John Harbaugh, $20 million to resurrect that franchise over 5 years. Can he do it? The optimism certainly is high. They got their man, Joe, and they're happy about it from their press conference yesterday.
They should be, Donnie. I mean, that is exactly what they needed when they needed it. You know, life is funny, right? Timing is everything. And for Harbaugh to become available the way he did. And for the Giants, I mean, wondering, they've been without a head coach now. When did they fire Table? Halfway through? I mean, there has been a lot of questions about what direction they were going. Why did they hold on to the GM? And you know what? All of that is gone. They knew Harbaugh the minute they knew he was available. From Tom Coughlin on, anybody that has ever had any influence in this organization apparently picked up the phone to the Mara family and said, go get whatever it takes, go get him. And that's exactly what they did.
And is Harbaugh having any thoughts of, boy, if I would have waited 24 hours, I'd still be in the state of New York, but with the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen? We'll never know, but sitting back with $20 million in your back pocket doesn't even matter at this point. Joe Shane, here's a clip of him talking about the procedures yesterday and getting their head coach.
We were looking for a proven winner and an elite leader. We're fortunate we were able to find both. John Harbaugh's amassed 193 career victories, 13 playoff wins, and a Super Bowl championship. John has built a foundation of culture, player development, and toughness throughout each of his programs that he's been a part of. He's a proven winner. And when we set out to do this, we knew that John was going to be the perfect person for the New York Giants. When we did our research, what continually came up was John's respect that the players had for him and the ability to develop young men. And with that being said, I would like to introduce to you the next head football coach of the New York Giants, John Harbaugh.
I don't know, man. It seems like a general manager that's like, you know what? I hope this works out, and I won't make any waves. You get what you want. I just want to have a job here, Joe.
You know what would have been great if he would have been like, is that 2 sugars, John? Did you say?
Yes,
did
correct.
you? How many? How many? Yeah. Did you want a cookie with that too? As well, I'll be right back. Yeah, go get the Starbucks order here, my friend. You are lucky to have a job still in that organization. But yeah, we know there is a new sheriff in town, and he would not have taken the job if he would have had to answer to Shane there. That would not have taken place.
Jonathan Gannon, former Eagles defensive coordinator, then the former Arizona head coach. Now could it be the future Packers defensive coordinator as teams starting to interview the interview the defensive mind. Maybe even the Cowboys? Gannon, look at that. Looks like he's wanted.
Well, he should be. I mean, he was a pretty good defense. You know this, Donnie. He was a pretty good DC, right? I mean, so again, sometimes you got to fail before you can succeed here. And call me crazy. He brings a pretty good DC knowledge to the table, much like Saleh. He will likely get another shot. He just ended up with the single worst dysfunctional franchise. And that's saying a lot, Raiders, but the single worst dysfunctional franchise for his first gig.
Looking at the current coaching carousel here, Joe, Arizona without a head coach. The Atlanta Falcons, Stefanski's there. Ravens, no head coach. Bills, no head coach. Browns, no head coach. Raiders, no head coach. Dolphins have a coach. Giants have a coach. Steelers, no coach. Tennessee with a coach. Still a lot of spots open here.
Ton of spots open here. And I'm laughing here, Donnie. Down in here in Miami, the Jeff Hadley's your new head coach. People are like, who? Who is that? What? Where is he? It didn't exactly move the needle here in South Florida, their first hire. But I think this is going to be interesting. Now I think the dominoes begin to fall, Donnie, because college football's over and the draft will be here before we know it.
Jesse Minter getting called back a second time for a chance to get that Raiders top job here. I always thought if you're going to get a quarterback and draft the number 1, you got to get an offensive guy. The Raiders, they do everything backwards, and maybe they'll do this backwards as well.
Oh, you got to think there are just some organizations here that will not get it right in any way, shape, or form. The Raiders, Arizona, there's a few of them that won't, Donnie.
No, certainly not. And the Raiders, I don't expect greatness from them because Tom Brady, they try, hey, we're going to come in right away and build a winner. They did everything wrong. Draft a running back high when your team stinks. Hire an aging coach. Get a quarterback that you traded for that was already done on the market, paid him a lot of money, Geno Smith. Congratulations, Raiders. Hour number 2 in full effect right here on a hump day Wednesday on the SportsGrid Network. This is the early line, Donnie right side, joined by Joe Ranieri. Now we welcome in our friend George Kurtz. A lot of information to go over. AFC, NFC Championship weekend, and also the coaching search carousel in the NFL always continues, George. Good to have you this morning.
Absolutely fun to be here, right? You said coaching search. 10. There were 10 job openings in the NFL. I think since last year, over half of the head coach in the NFL will now be replaced.
It's unbelievable where teams are like, oh, look at this. Well, Liam Cohen did a quick turnaround in Jacksonville. We can find our Liam Cohen. We'll see how that turns out. But one of the biggest jobs left open, George, is the Buffalo Bills. When Arumo was getting a request here, Brian Dable. I was surprised they let go of McDermott. How do you figure that coaching search turns out? Offense, defense, what are you thinking there?
I don't think I was surprised they let go of McDermott. Not that I think he's so much needed to go here. I think it's more of a thing where he can only get you so far, right? He just couldn't get over that hump. They gave him, 9 tries, whatever it might be. Can't do it. Fan base is going ballistic here, as we know, with our own Gabe Morency. Not very happy. So they moved on here. My biggest shock, Donnie, was how does Billy Beane not go with him? All right. I just found this weird.
Correct.
I mean, Billy Beane failed up, right? He got promoted. He actually failed up. I think it was more his fault than it was McDermott's fault for not getting there. I know we were talking during the break. We've heard that Brian Dable is one of the favorites there. Another guy who would fail up, right? He didn't do all that well with the Giants there. I understand not the same team there, but Dable, this past year with the Giants, he looked like a chicken with his head chopped off at times, right? He was just a deer in the headlights on the sideline there. I guess it was dead man walking. He knew he was going to get chopped eventually, but he did some strange things running into the blue tent when Dart was in there for the concussion protocol there. I think it's going to be Dable because of his relationship with Josh Allen or Joe Brady. I think Brady could be the guy as well here. I don't think they want to lose Brady from what we're hearing. I think if they you talk to Brady, hey, if we bring in Dable, we used to be the OC. If Brady says yes, makes Dable a better shot. If Brady says no, I'm out of here. I'm not working with Dable. Or I want to do my own thing someplace else because Dable might call his own plays. Then I think Brady would have a better chance at getting the head coaching job there. But I think it will be an offensive guy, one of those two.
It's funny. I thought McDaniel would get another job without a doubt, head coaching if he wanted. But it's interesting that he chose the OC spot with the Chargers and Harbaugh. I think it's a great hire by Harbaugh. I don't know how he convinced him to do it, but him having Justin Herbert to navigate, I think that's a great move for Harbaugh and the Chargers.
Yeah, we've seen this all throughout the years, right? The decades of the NFL. Some guys are meant to be more coordinators than they are head coaches. And I do wonder if McDaniel's that guy. You think of Norv Turner or someone, or Wade Phillips, why was someone's a better DC than a head coach. I do wonder if McDaniel's that same sort of thing. This could also be a rehabilitation. You go to the Chargers. The Eagles wanted him, right? The Commanders wanted him. A lot of teams wanted him for their OC. You go to the Chargers. You be his OC for whatever it is, a year or two. Rehabilitate your image. Things go well there. You score 1 million points. And then you go back into the head coaching cycles. I don't think it'll be 10 again next year, but we know every year 6 to 8 head coaches get replaced. So maybe you need to wait 2 years, but that will give you another chance in a couple of seasons.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that turns out. I think it's a great landing spot for him. And also understand this, well, why would he go there? Harbaugh's going to want to run fits have been fantastic in Miami. I think it's going to fit like a glove out there. Should be fun to watch. But let's get to the action this weekend, George, and we'll start in the AFC. That's a 3 o'clock game on Sunday. Drake May and Jared Stidham, not Bo Nix, because he did broke a bone in his ankle. He's out. This line's been going 4.5 to 5.5 all week long. So I'll start here with you, George. How do we feel about this game now that Stidham's the starting quarterback as opposed to Bo Nix, and do the Denver Broncos have a legitimate chance to still win this game?
Yeah, I'm just checking here to make sure it's still at 5.5. I think it's going to climb, by the way. I think by the time we get to Sunday, it'll be 6. Just a guess here. Listen, we could say all the things we want here. Oh, Sean Payton, he'll coach. He's one of the best quarterback coaches. He'll coach up Stidham in 6 days. Come on. Come on. I think in some ways they're kind of lucky that New England, they've struggled on offense themselves, right? Drake May has played okay, but certainly not great here. I think the Denver defense is going to keep this close for a bit, maybe a half plus, but eventually New England's going to pull away. I think that's sort of what we saw in the Houston and New England game, where all those mistakes by Stroud, just eventually Houston, they just couldn't hold the weight anymore, and that was it. The game was over. I think the same thing here. Listen, I'm on New England here. I played at the 4.5, certainly playing the 5.5 here. I'm going to have a gazillion parlays with New England and whatever NHL is going on, whether it's a Saturday NHL game, the Sunday NHL games, or even Monday. So I think New England's going to win the game. I think in the end it's going to be fairly easily. I think, unfortunately, they're going to the Super Bowl, as maybe I don't want to see the Patriots again. But I don't see the Broncos being able to survive. No Bo Nix. Might have felt differently if he was playing, but he's not. Stidham's going. Come on. It's a backup quarterback. I don't see this going well.
What about Seattle and the Rams sitting at just under a field goal here?
What are we seeing from Seattle lately, right? Ever since that disaster from Donald with the 49ers, they're protecting him. All right, then he barely had to play Sunday against the Niners, right? That was Sunday night.
Yep.
That was a disaster. We knew it was going to be, and they took care of business because Seattle's defense is that good. I don't think Seattle's defense is Houston's defense, but it's pretty damn close here. Now the Rams, they've won, but Stafford hasn't looked all that good. Granted, it was whatever it was in Chicago, 6 degrees. It was cold. That's going to affect anybody there. They're going to need to score points here. They're going to need to be that Stafford, that the MVP consider it, right? So I think we'll get more of that. But I don't think we'll get a 70-point ball game like we saw earlier in the season between these two teams. I think it's going to be more in the mid-40s here. I do like Seattle to sort of be a repeat of whatever Super Bowl that was, Seattle and New England. I think they win the game. Like I said, I think it's going to be a heavy Kenny Walker run game again here. No Zach Charbonnet. He's got the ACL tear there. So I think they're going to once again protect Darnold. We're not going to lose unless Darnold loses it for us, unless he's throwing 2-3 interceptions here. So I like Seattle to win the game here. Seattle, New England, Super Bowl.
Let me ask you a question on that game, too, because, Joe and I talk about it all the time. We don't ever worry about Matthew Stafford. Now, he can play poorly, but the expectations, we think he rises to the occasion. With Sam Darnold, understanding that he can play well, but also, will he be limited with that oblique injury, or do you have any worries about handicapping that edge this week, George, with Seattle?
If he has a true oblique, that's not going to heal in a week, right? That'll still be there.
Yeah,
an oblique is 4 to 6 weeks, and that's being nice if you have a big one. So, yeah, I think he will be limited, assuming the injury was a legit oblique and they're not just blowing smoke here. They'll shoot him up. He's playing, no doubt about that. But I do wonder about that. That's another reason why they don't want a shootout. They want to kill as much clock as they can here, and they don't want Sam Darnold throwing the ball 40 times. Scoring first would be imperative for Seattle.
It's great stuff here. That's George Kurtz, rising, grinding with us right here on the early line, getting you ready for AFC NFC Championship weekend. Thanks, George. For myself and Joe Ranieri, we'll be right back after this short break. Predictive markets and the early line. It's a match made in heaven. You ever see some of those memes out there where, what was it, like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Apollo Creed, doing that flex into the elbows there? That's what it feels like, Joe. The energy is always high when we hit these predictive markets, and we don't even like to waste any time on this. You know where a good predictive market is right now? It's in Las Vegas for their next head coach, the favorite in the clubhouse, Joe. It's Clint Kubiak at 38%, followed by Davis Webb at 26%. Also, did you know that Jesse Minter's been brought back a second time to have an interview with the Raiders? He's now listed at 20%. Offense. You need to go offense if you have the number one pick and you're picking Mendoza, excuse me. Clint Kubiak seems like it might be the right fit for him out there, Joe. What do you think?
I don't think the Raiders or Arizona, I don't think they're a right fit for anybody. I think you got to be very, very careful. Although I'll say this, it would appear that they have more younger pieces defensively than they do offensively right now. They're going to have a young quarterback, with the number one draft pick there in Mendoza likely coming in. So I think in order to stay afloat there, I think the defense first is probably not a bad way to look. But listen, you gotta start somewhere, right? But it wouldn't shock me. How many coaches have the Raiders had over the last 5 years now? Yeah, it's ugly.
Where's Bisaccia when you need him at this point? And by the way, if you look, top 3 guys, Joe, Kubiak, Webb, and Minter. Number 4 on that list at 10%, it's Sean McDermott. If I'm not going offense here, that could be a grand slam hire because sometimes, Joe, you're just looking for stability. Like the Giants, looking for stability. Got a stable guy. McDermott can bring that stability in there to see what happens. But Clint Kubiak right now is the favorite in the building, or at least in the favorite in the odds market. AFC Championship game, 3 o'clock, Sunday afternoon, Mile High Stadium. Yeah, I'm still going to call it Mile High Stadium because it is the Mile High City. You take a look at this number, Joe. 4.5 at the opener, up to 5.5. It's been bouncing back. 4.5 to 5.5. We just talked to George Kurtz, and he says he probably thinks this line is going to continue to increase as the week goes on. Jarrett Stidham is the starting quarterback for the Denver Broncos, not Bo Nix. Drake May, he will be the starter for the New England Patriots, but also not playing great football and certainly seems turnover prone as of late. The total in this game is up, Joe, from 40.5 at the opening number to 42.5. But weather conditions are getting colder by the day. We were talking earlier in the week, somewhere in the mid-40s, now into the low 40s. Now we're seeing this into the 30s and into the 20s. A cold day expected in the Mile High City, Joe.
Yeah, it's going to be. And keep an eye on the weather, Donnie. We talked about this in our spread line segment last hour that it can change in a heartbeat. We're not talking about dome teams here. We're talking about two parts of the country here where the weather can change on a dime, especially with Denver. So keep an eye on that. I think you'll start to see the total adjust. But, I disagree with George because I don't think we're getting anywhere near a touchdown when this is all said and done. I don't think we're going to see 6.5s at all. I don't think we'll ever see a 7. And if we, by some miraculous chance, happen to, Donnie, it's going to be bet back down in a heartbeat here. I mean, we're not talking about a Jarrett Stidham backup quarterback that is first year with his head coach or has absolutely no experience ever starting a game in the end. That's not what we're dealing with here. I know it's easy to just discount this team, but remember, they're a number 1 seed. They also have rest advantage here, Donnie. Let's not forget that. They played on Saturday. New England played on Sunday. That matters in these spots. So, teams that have the number 1 seed have extra rest and had to play one less game. I wouldn't be just sticking a fork in Denver right off the bat here. I think they're very much a live dog. And look, if they don't win, they are still very capable of covering this line.
It's a good point you bring up, Joe, because I look at this game and I say to myself, there's no chance the Denver Broncos win a Super Bowl with Jarrett Stidham. It's not going to happen. But that doesn't mean that the Denver Broncos at home in the AFC Championship game can't be competitive enough to stay within a touchdown and or just win the game outright. Completely different story, neutral field. Stidham going up against the Rams and or the Seattle Seahawks. I don't think that ends there, but I do think there's a fact that they can keep close in this game. Let me answer this question too, because we're now going to hear, and rightfully so from the Denver organization, how good Jarrett Stidham is, how he's ready for the big moment. And you try to shut that noise out and be an honest handicapper on what you think you can get out of Stidham. The one thing I do know is Sean Payton loves to pass the football. He's not just going to change his stripes and run the football 45 times in this game. So the question for me, Joe, can he get his passing prop number, which is around the 190 price point?
Well, yeah, I mean, what you also need to know about this Broncos team is they have the number 3 best offensive line when it comes to protecting the quarterback. I mean, Bo Nix wasn't under any duress at all in that game against Buffalo in any way, shape, or form. Jarrett Stidham is not going to be under duress in any way, shape, or form in this game. And let's not forget, it's not like Sean Payton is a stranger to having backup quarterbacks in a game plan for him. Don't forget, he had this already happen with Jarrett Stidham for 2 games in 2023. I don't like the running game of Denver, but to your point, Donnie, the guy that's going to pass the most likely in this game is Jarrett Stidham. I think his over 18.5, I think, is what his completion prop is. I like over his yardage. It's quick reads, get the ball out of your hand, and let your playmakers make some plays. And they've got a lot of those on the outside.
Backup quarterbacks, Joe, throughout the season, when you're backing up a guy like Bo Nix, you're taking no snaps. You get like 1 snap a week. You're going to run some scout team. You're going to be in the quarterback room, try to understand the game plan. And sometimes we take a look at things different. Like if Stidham was thrown into a game in the second quarter because Bo Nix broke his ankle, that's a completely different scenario. He's coming in cold. This entire game plan this week from Sean Payton is going to cater around what Stidham wants to do and what he's comfortable with. That does make a big deal, but we'll see where this line certainly comes out. Drake May, the better quarterback, absolutely in this game. Still hard to win football games on the road in elevation and freezing cold temperatures. We'll see how that one plays out. Let's flip it over to the NFC, Joe. The Rams and the Seattle Seahawks. This line opened up under a field goal, still staying under a field goal. I want to start with you here first. Do we think, again, that this line is going to stay 2.5 throughout the week, closer to 2 by the end of the week, or even, Joe, getting to a 3 line by the time we get to game time?
Well, I think what we've already seen is that because this was 3 early Monday, and then it settled in at 2.5, and we haven't sniffed at 3 since. And that's because, Donnie, as soon as it gets to the key number of 3, you're going to have the other side betting it back down to 2.5. So I think that's exactly what you're going to see here. I would not be shocked as the week progresses. And again, when the limits increase this time of the week, and the bigger bets can start to roll in here, it wouldn't shock me if the bigger bets start to come in on the Rams. And again, the Rams, maybe this gets down to 2, 1.5, but I don't know that this is going to land 3. I think 2.5 is where it will be. I certainly don't think you're going to get the hook in any way, shape, or form here at 3.5 prior to kick. And I still think it ultimately comes down to these two teams know each other very, very well. Both games were within one score, a field goal, essentially. Ultimately, it's going to have to come down to which team offensively do we trust to make a big play in the big moment. Is it Stafford or is it Sam Darnold? And that, to me, will decide who you're betting in this game.
You're right. And also, you take a look at Sam Darnold's passing prop number, Joe, listed at 235.5. We saw it around that similar number last week, and it tanked close to game time because we weren't sure what we were going to get out of him with that injury. Now, granted, in that game, it was a blowout. He didn't have to throw a lot. But if you're expecting the Seattle Seahawks to win this football game, you're going to need an effort out of Sam Darnold. This can't be one of those games where you say, all right, I lean on my defense. Maybe you can. But Matthew Stafford has an elite level weaponry that he can come after that defense with. And again, we talked about the weather conditions in Denver, not nearly as bad here in the Pacific Northwest, where 1 degree mile-per-hour winds. That is absolutely nothing at this point. Yep. I'm interested to see what actually happens in this game with Sam Darnold because I need to see the practice reports. If I'm getting limited efforts out of Darnold this week, I'm worried about that. If I get full practice right away on a Wednesday, Joe, that could tilt the scales in my favor if I want to take Seattle.
Are you ready for the possibility of there being a Jarrett Stidham versus Drew Lock Super Bowl? Because that could very much be on the table here, folks. It could be Denver and Seattle, sure, but it could be Seattle with Drew Lock, the backup quarterback, as opposed to Sam Darnold. So this is going to be very interesting. The one thing I can tell you, interestingly enough, is that it feels like we got 4 teams left, Donnie. It feels like 4 of the best defenses this season, at least top 5, top 10 remain. And I think that's a pretty good key indicator on what it takes. You can't just have all offense. You better have a top 10 defense, and all 4 of these teams do.
Taking a look at the totals, Joe, if we take a look at the first game, New England and Denver, that's listed, let's call it 42.5. Game number 2, Rams and Seattle, 47.5. Am I wrong for thinking right now that New England and Denver's 42.5 has a better chance to go over than Seattle, Los Angeles until we see those practice reports from Sam Darnold? It feels like that game, 47.5 is a lot. That's a key number going through the 47. I'm actually looking more at that New England game, Joe, than I am the second one.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, listen, could I see Seattle and the Rams playing, to 50 or more points? Absolutely, I can. But I can certainly see mid-40s. 24-20 type of situation with the Rams, with New England and Denver, rather. I think that's very much in the play here.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to see, again, it play out. A couple more days to go. But Wednesday is that first official practice day after the Tuesday layoff. Then you have Thursday and Friday before you get ready for the weekend. We'll keep an eye on these weather forecasts, but more importantly, some of these injury reports that you're going to need to know.